You're very welcome to Football Pass and your Good Friday football fix. Lots to get through today. Stephen Craigan is with me. Stephen, let's start by focusing on Rangers, specifically Stephen Davis. He's officially Britain's most capped player. He's just signed a new contract extension, winning the league with his boyhood club. He's in the form of his career. Is this his peak or is the best yet to come?
Well, it's hard to say at 36 years of age you'll get any better, but certainly I've said over the last number of months that I feel like he's like a fine wine. He's certainly getting better with age. And what I mean by that is his anticipation in the game, his understanding of the game, of when to play longer passes, when to play shorter passes. He recognises when his team are under pressure. So his decision making, throughout his career has got better. He's changed his position over the last number of years. Stephen was always an attacking midfield player who got into the box and supported the front players. But he's adapted and he's adjusted. He's now the player that plays behind the midfield, just in front of the back four. And he's one of those players that if you watch him, his players or his teammates trust him so much because they're always looking for a release pass if they're under pressure. And he's always that person who will take the ball away from him and put it into a safe area. So, I mean, peak, it's hard to think he's going to get any better, but certainly his consistency level, if it maintains where it is, then he can certainly play for another, 2-3 years, you'd imagine.
Certainly players at his level strive for excellence, but when you attain it, when you achieve that level, what motivates you? What keeps you going?
I think when you get to 36, you can imagine in your mindset, you're thinking, I've not got long left. You're not going to play till you're 45, 46. So you're thinking to yourself, I want to try and play. Certainly, Stephen at Rangers, he will want to try and play at that level for as long as he possibly can. So your mindset changes, you approach the games differently. But I think what's been crucial for Stephen Davis has been how he's been managed. He's 36, but Steven Gerrard is quite happy to put him into the team and bring him out, rest him. He's fully aware of how important he is to his side. And I think Steven Gerrard himself has said he's easy to manage. He's a top professional. He never poses any problems. And that's what you want within your team. If he's in the team or he's not in the team, he said he still trains the same. He still acts the same around the training ground. I was involved in the Northern Ireland setup when Stephen made his debut at 20 years of age. And I have to genuinely say he's not changed since then. His demeanour, the way he speaks to people, the way he respects everyone within the game. And there's very few people have got a bad word to say about him. And when you hear guys like Steven Gerrard talking about him, saying when he played against him at Liverpool, he didn't enjoy it because he always knew he got a tough game. And that knows you've got a top quality player in your hands. And he's very quiet. Some people, he goes under the radar a little bit. Sometimes he's underrated because he's not vocal, because he's not going about the game making tackles and, standing out. But any football purist who watch the game can see how important he is, to Rangers and to Northern Ireland.
How prominent a component do you think he's likely to be for Rangers' next campaign, next season?
Like I've just said about Steven Gerrard managing him, I think the manager will decide that. There will be games where he'll put him in, there's games when he'll bring him out. And that's what will give him longevity in his career. If he's to play Thursday, Sunday or Wednesday, Sunday, for 3-4 months at the age of 36, that's going to take a toll on his body. So if Steven Gerrard wants a fit and fresh Stephen Davis who can influence games and affect games, then I think he will decide certain games he can bring him out and certain games he can bring him in. But what I've noticed over certainly this season, when the big games have came around, when he knows he needs his players he can trust, that's the word Steven Gerrard uses an awful lot, is the word trust. That's when he'll put Stephen in because he won't have to manage him. He won't have to worry about his area of the pitch. So I think, the relationship between Stephen Davis and Steven Gerrard is crucial. And ultimately, when you become an older player, you want to be managed properly. You still want to play every game, but then sometimes you have to realise it's probably right for me to step out.
Let's talk about Alan McGregor, also signed a new deal. He's approaching 40. He's been absolutely instrumental for Rangers this season. Will he be as influential next?
Listen, Alan's probably slightly different than Stephen, that he doesn't have to do all the physical work throughout the game. But what has to be sharp with a goalkeeper has to be their mental concentration. And you can see that with Alan McGregor. But, Steven Gerrard is making sure that he's got the experienced professionals to manage games, guys who have been there and won league championships, who have played in Champions League football, who know what it's all about. So, if you suddenly lose that from your squad, you then look around and think, who's going to carry us forward? Who's going to be that inspiration when it comes to big games? So Stephen Davis and Alan McGregor are absolutely that. And I always think it's interesting because I always believe that young players in and around a football club, they should look at the older players, the older professionals, to see how they live, to see how they train, to see how they live their lives on a daily basis. And they should be thinking to themselves, I want to attach myself to one of those two guys. Because if they're still playing deep into their 30s, they're clearly doing something right. So as an individual, you should take it upon yourself to go and ask questions. Ask what they're doing, how they train, how they live, what's their rest, what's their recovery, and follow and attach yourself. Because once those guys are gone, sometimes they aren't replaced and you have to almost do it for yourself. So as young players, they should be looking to those two, aspiring to be what they can be. And that's probably another reason why Steven Gerrard has kept them around the club.
Work ethic it really can't be underestimated, can it?
No, it can't. And it's not by luck that these two guys play deep into the 30s. They've clearly managed themselves well. They know how to live properly. But ultimately, you still have to perform on the pitch. So it's getting that balance. And when you become more experienced, you probably understand the balance a lot better. When you're early 20s, mid 20s, you think you can burn the candle at both ends. You then get to an age where you think, I can't. I'm now going to have to start managing myself better. And it does become about work ethic. But ultimately, as a manager, you want to pick players who you can trust, who you can put on that pitch and are going to do a job for you. And certainly those two guys come into that bracket.
Rangers dominant this season, to say the least. Surely they'll want to come back and do it all again next season in front of packed stadiums.
Any player you speak to, any club you speak to who have success, it's all about whetting the appetite. It's all about enjoying that feeling, bottling it up, and then taking it forward as you go. So listen, there's no doubt that Rangers will want to go on and try and be successful. They still have the Scottish Cup to play for this season. But Celtic will be hurting. It's not just going to be a one-horse race and it's going to just be a continued success for Rangers. Celtic look as if they could be appointing a manager within the next 2 or 3 weeks. So suddenly the challenge comes up. It's a fresh face coming in at Celtic Park. Rangers won't have it all their own way. Celtic have just finished, winning an incredible amount of trophies over the last 3 or 4 years. I don't imagine that will happen probably in my lifetime or, a few people's lifetime. So it looks as if the competitive edge, will be back in Glasgow over the next year or so. So Rangers have to strengthen. They have to make sure the players are in the right frame of mind, because I can imagine Celtic will be hurting and they'll be wanting to bounce back and make sure that Rangers aren't enjoying the success that they are at the moment.
Just on that note, Stephen, Eddie Howe reportedly in advanced talks with Celtic. He certainly ticks a lot of boxes for them. Is he a good fit? What are your thoughts?
It depends what Celtic are looking for as a manager. What their job specification is. Are they wanting someone to come in who knows Celtic? Well, he probably doesn't. But sometimes I think that helps, because you don't bring the baggage of having played and the pressure of the fans and being a supporter of the club as a kid. That adds expectation to yourself. Suddenly your family members become involved. They're asking you every day, how's it going? What's it like? And sometimes you can imagine that's a bit of a distraction. So to bring someone in fresh like Eddie Howe, who's managed in the Premier League in England, he's shown he can probably outperform what they should have been. When Eddie took over, they were bottom of League Two, almost out of the Football League, and suddenly he's managed to build them up. Probably a victim of his own success, because people are now saying, well, he got relegated at Bournemouth, he lost his job. But people forget that he had success before that. These things have to come to an end somewhere along the line. So if Eddie is up for the challenge, listen, his eyes will certainly be opened when he arrives in Glasgow, because it's 24/7. Every training session, every decision you make, every substitution, every player signed is scrutinised from top to bottom. So, but he will have looked at Steven Gerrard and thought, well, he's getting success. He's starting out in his career as a manager. He's making a name for himself. And Eddie Howe will think, I would like a bit of that. Because listen, you play in European football every year. You've got a chance of winning the title. Who wouldn't want to come to Glasgow? If
he gets offered the job, you think he'll take it then?
What I would say is there's not many bigger football clubs in Britain. Rangers and Celtic sometimes get forgot about because they're up in Scotland, but you only have to look at the fan base, the adulation that if you're successful, you're held amongst the support. Of course, there's big clubs in England, and they've got lots of money, but Celtic are a very attractive football club. I heard people saying a couple of months ago, who would want the job? What can you do next? Of course, somebody would want the job. Don't underestimate the challenge of Celtic, but you've seen that if Brendan Rodgers comes up and has success, Neil Lennon had success, you become a club legend. Of course, the standards are high and you're under scrutiny, but listen, Celtic is a job that anyone would aspire to get to. And if Eddie feels that that's the next step in his career, then listen, he won't be disappointed.
Scottish Cup, just want to touch on that quickly. Lots of action. Rangers welcoming Cove Rangers, Celtic Falkirk. What are your thoughts on those games and any other ties you're really looking forward to, Stephen?
Well, Rangers and Celtic at home, you'd imagine, would have enough to beat Cove Rangers and to beat Falkirk. Traditionally in the Scottish Cup, sometimes you have clubs who rotate. But John Kennedy, Eddie Howe hasn't been announced as manager. So John Kennedy's thinking, well, if I want to get this job or I want to keep my name in the frame, I'm going to have to beat Falkirk and potentially win the Scottish Cup. So, you know, I don't imagine John will be taking any risks. Stephen Gerrard will be eyeing a double. You know, he said after winning the league title that he wants his players to be hungry for success and more success. So I don't imagine he's going to rest his players and take any risks. So you'd imagine there would be 2 home wins. I look at Hibs, who are going down to Queen of the South and playing on the AstroTurf, and I have to say that the surface down there isn't great. It's been down for quite a while. So Jack Ross has had disappointment this season. He went out to St Johnstone in the League Cup semi-final. They lost against Hearts in last season's Cup semi-final, which was held, I think, back in October. So Jack Ross won't want to go down there and lose another cup game. So that could be a little challenge for them, because Queen of the South will be doing quite well. Tonight we've got the Highland Derby, which is Ross County against Inverness, which is always nice. Unfortunately, there'll be no fans at it. And I think that's the kind of derby that people tend to forget. You know, I don't think there's a lot of love between the two sets of supporters. I mean, there's not masses of them, but still they have pride. So, you know, something like that. But then Brewer Rangers, who beat Hearts in the last round, they're the team making all the noise. They play home to Stranraer. And for Martin United in the Highland League, played home to my old club, Motherwell. And Motherwell, you know, had a difficult result 2 weeks ago away to Kilmarnock. So they will be wary of Highland League teams going away from home. It's a must-win for them. So unfortunately, in days like that the only way Motherwell will make any headlines is if they lose. So they want to go and win the game and put it to bed. But Scottish Cup at this time of year is always exciting. Everybody knows it's the showpiece event at the end of the season. Everybody wants to be part of it. Unfortunately, fans won't be there. But still, if you've got a Scottish Cup winners medal, I don't think you'll mind.
Stephen, it's great to catch up with you. Happy Easter, and I look forward to talking to you again very soon.
Thank you, Kirsty. All the best.